You're listening to Bet Big, Talk Loud. Talk Loud. With your host, Chris Hodge and JR.
All right, back here on the Bet Big, Talk Loud podcast, I have special guest, two-time Super Bowl winner, 11-year NFL veteran, Glenn Cadrez with me. Glenn, thank you so much for coming on. I am so excited about this particular interview, but there's one question before we get to the Monday night game that I know you like. I have to ask this because I am located in New York, and you, my friend, you were drafted by the New York Jets. So the first question I have to ask you was it like heaven getting away from that organization and going over to Denver and winning Super Bowls?
It was one of the greatest decisions of my 11-year career,
Typical.
to be honest with you.
Typical, man. Yeah. And they drafted you. They drafted you in the sixth round. But boy, what a favor they did for you, right?
Well, I'll tell you. So on draft day, Marv Levy called me in the morning. And it was the second day. We had 12 rounds back then. And he called me the second day and he said, "Hey, we're taking you in the sixth round." And that had been kind of the thing, you know, all the scouts and everyone was like, Buffalo's taking them. So I was like, okay, great. I get a call about a half hour before the Jets pick, and it was Miami Dolphins, and they said, "Hey, we're taking you in the sixth round." And I was like, I went and looked up this guy. I was like, "Oh, Miami's going to take me before Buffalo. Okay, I'm going to be with Dan Marino, Sunshine. Okay,
Great.
Cool." And then the phone rings like 20 minutes later, and I'm like, "Oh, this is Miami. Like, and I answer the phone, and it was Pete Carroll, and he's like, "Hey, we drafted you in the sixth round." I go, "Who?" And he's like, "The Jets." I was like, "The Jets." I didn't even know. I knew one person, Al Toon, on the Jets. And only because my roommate in college, his dad was the head coach of the Oilers, Jack Pardee. And so we went to the game, and that game happened to be the Jets. And I remember Al Toon, so anyway, I ended up in New York, never been to New York, love the food, love the people. But that organization, I wish them well, but I'm glad I was able to move off to Denver.
I bet. And listen, this segment right here is sponsored by GirlsThatGamble.live. Again, we got Glenn Cadrez, and he has a big Monday night pick we'll get to in just a moment. It just seems like that organization, man, it just seems like nothing's ever changed with them. There was a kid, I don't know if you saw the video, it seems like it's everywhere, it's viral. They interviewed a kid after the game, just walking out. He's like, "I hate this Jets team. I was born into it, but I just hate it." It's a great video.
I saw it. Yeah, I saw it. That was.
Now,
that's typical.
So you get away from the Jets. Now, I think the year you get away from them right after that was their 1-in-15 year where just like everything went wrong, and you end up in Denver where you win 2 Super Bowls. So before we get to that, I have to ask, because it was really like the golden age of quarterback play. You played against and with Hall of Famers, John Elway, Dan Marino, Montana Young, Aikman, Moon. I know he was your teammate, but give me a fair critique right here. Was John Elway, of all those quarterbacks, was he the best one you played with and against?
I'll tell you this, because of course I'd be biased, but I'll tell you this. If you ran this exercise, if you took all of the top offensive minds, offensive coaches in the history of our league, and you put them on a team, and you took the top 20 quarterbacks in everyone's mind, I think we can all agree with pretty much the top 15, 20 quarterbacks, and you were to strip their name from the jersey, and you were just to put a blank jersey on, and you were to say, "All you guys go out there and try out to be the starter," I think John Elway would be the starter.
Really?
9 out of 10. I think the majority of offensive-minded coaches would look at what he brings to the table, and I think they would start him number one more times than any other quarterback out there. And that includes Mahomes. He's bigger. He can move like Mahomes. People don't realize this guy was he was an exceptional athlete. You know, the baseball type shortstop with the quick hands and the slide in the feet and getting, turning two. He had all of that. He had a massively strong arm. He was very accountable in the locker room. So it was I just think they would put him as their starter going over everybody.
So I feel like, before he got his Super Bowls that you were obviously a part of, him and Dan Marino were like the same guy, right? Like Marino hadn't won the game, and really the difference there is Elway ends up with 2 and Marino ends up with 1. But a lot of people that I've spoken to always tell me that they felt Dan Marino was the best thrower of the football that they saw. I know you played against him a couple times a year in the AFC East. Do you think that's true, or you still like it was Elway?
I think in that same scenario, I think Marino would be the backup.
Really?
He would be number 2. Yeah, he was exceptional. The latter part of his career, like we had a stat going into the AFC champ or the playoff game in '99 against him that he hadn't thrown a ball further than 20 yards in the air. He'd made a 15-yard completion and the guy ran for 50 or 60, but he hasn't thrown a completion in the air for more than 20 yards. So we kind of played up, and that there was things that he just couldn't do. We knew to flush him out to the left. There was just things that, and John in his last year, he was, helicoptering tackles and still throwing the ball at great speed. So I just, but Marino in his prime he was phenomenal. Yeah, there was a lot of great quarterbacks. I think that was the era of great quarterbacks. Not to say that what we have now is the product that's putting out there on the field now is great, but it's 7-on-7. Okay, they're not playing football. They're not getting hit. I mean, imagine you're going back there looking for your receiver, and you have Reggie White and Lawrence Taylor, who not only will hit you, they'll hit you low, they'll hit you high. They're gonna knock you out of the game.
And
that's what.
And look, we spoke about that. And again, 2-time Super Bowl winner right now with us, Glenn Cadrez. This segment is sponsored by girls.gamble.live. Before I get to the Super Bowls, and everyone wants to hear about that, you and I were talking, you're a little older than I am. You had, grown up playing in the late 80s, obviously pro career into the 90s. So take me through what you feel that was versus what you're now watching today as a former professional athlete.
Well, I was 92 to 2002. So that era, obviously 93 was we got player bargaining agreement done, so free agency. So that opened up a whole new era, But basically, the owners looked at the product and said, we make a lot of money with this guy, and this guy, and these positions, and we don't want them hurt. And that's and they're protecting their commodities, they're protecting their business, and I don't blame them. Having boys, I'm very cautious, and that, like, my kid got a concussion in high school the other day, and I'm like, okay, you're done, 2 weeks, done. Whereas we didn't have concussions back then. You just put,
And we were talking about that yesterday. We're like, what the hell? Get back in the game. What the hell is wrong with you?
Oh, you rung your bell? Okay. I remember a coach telling me I got knocked out of a game in Minnesota, and he the next day he's like, you better not be no mush head. Like, you better not be getting these all the time. I'm like, yeah, I get you. So it's a completely different game, but at the end of the day, it's safer. It's a safer game. It's a huge game. It's so Americana that we're bigger than any other sport combined. And, keep these guys standing. I mean, I don't want to watch the Bengals unless Joe Burrow's playing.
And what happens? A toe takes him out. We were just talking about that earlier, like crazy.
Yeah.
Like,
and even in the gambling world, I mean, gambling's what keeps. We're out of the 100 top TV shows, the NFL 96 football games are the top 96. Like we outrate everything out there, Emmys, Oscars, whatever it is. So, and like the gambling world with all the fantasy and all that stuff, it's like women are into it. Everyone's watching it because they've got, a little deal on it, a little fantasy or whatever it is, knockout pools and all that. So it's really become very much a part of Americana, and it's like church, man. It's like Sunday. It's like, okay, it's a ritual, guys, they dress up, they have their little caveman rooms and, or the tailgate parties or whatever. And it's great. It's awesome. It's, I think it's, I think football is just a great sport for our country, and it's like who we are.
It's funny that you brought up church, because I believe it's a scene in the movie Concussion. And the doctor is talking. He was like, God used to own Sundays. Now the NFL owns it. That's right.
Right.
It's like, wow, it's a great line. So,
right.
So Glenn, take me through, obviously mindset going into, you played for two Super Bowl champions. What's the night before a Super Bowl like? Like when you're sitting in the hotel room and you just finished up your last team meeting and you're about to go to bed, if you can sleep at all, like what's that mindset like of, you're 24 hours away from the biggest game of your life?
Well, my first Super Bowl was in San Diego, and that's where I'm from. I was 8 years old when my dad took me to my first game. Same stadium. I knew exactly where we sat. I could look at it and point. So to me, it was just the most surreal thing in the world. Like I actually, my condo, I took the trolley home from that Super Bowl. It
Wow.
was packed, and I was in the trolley right because I was like down like a mile away. So it was absolutely crazy. It was just one of those things where I just wanted it to start. I just wanted this
Right.
this dream to get over and like reality start setting in, and so obviously the game was pretty exciting and all that, and we end up winning, and first time Denver wins, and it was great for the city, and it was just awesome. And then the second Super Bowl, I was a starter, and the first one I played special teams and I played nickel downs. So the next one was a lot more special. I had a lot more responsibility. I was a starting middle linebacker. I was a long snapper on punt. So I had a lot of butterflies and a lot of anticipation in that game. But we had a great stretch for the whole season, so it wasn't like I was nervous. I was very confident in what I can do and what we can do, and so it was just fun. It just turned into, put your mind in, you're in the backyard saying, "Hey, this is the Super Bowl," and like this actually is. So it was phenomenal. I couldn't. My life has just been exceptional. Like the fact that I got to experience that and having the passion of football that I had and get to play in that game like that is just, I can't even describe.
So from a team perspective, that first Super Bowl, you guys were the hunters. I don't believe you guys were favored in the last three games you played, and Green Bay, I believe, was a heavy favorite in that Super Bowl. So you guys were the hunters. The second Super Bowl, you were the hunted, right? You
Right.
had to go in. You guys were undefeated that year, and it's funny. You and I were talking the year that you were undefeated, 13-0. I was actually at the game in the Meadowlands when I believe it was Kent Graham, who was the starting quarterback for the Giants at the time, ended a 13-0 run for you guys basically on a Hail Mary. So you guys were the hunted that year. Did losing that undefeated stretch, we hear this a lot with professional sports, like when it's done being undefeated. When that, was that more of like a help to you guys not going undefeated, or would you have really liked to go undefeated that year?
I think everyone thought that we were going to go undefeated and wanted to go undefeated. But then once it was over, every interview was like, "Well, you know what? I'm glad that's over. Now you guys don't talk about it anymore. Now we could just focus on what we're trying to do." So it was, it hurt. It was, believe me, the plane ride home, people shook their head like, "Damn it, we could have done something special." And then at the same time, it was like, well, that's not even our goal. Our goal isn't to go undefeated. Our goal is to win the Super Bowl. So let's do that. And then it showed the same. I mean, the next week we played Miami with literally a game plan right out of minicamp. We it was the most basic game plan we've ever had in my 11 years, and they beat us, and we knew we were playing them again, so we were just kind of like, yeah, okay, well, you're going to come to Mile High, and then we just put a real beating on them that year.
So it's funny, and about 5 minutes ago, you mentioned gambling. That's a story right there, right? Like a lot of the gamblers out there do not realize that you guys went and played an NFL game with basically a camp, game plan, right? And, if you bet on, Denver's not going to lose 2 games in a row, they're the best team in the league, not even realizing you guys are showing up with a game plan because you don't want to show anything because 3 or 4 weeks later, you got to play the same team.
Right. And I mean, I guess some good handicappers can look at that and say, well, Denver's home field advantage. The Super Bowl goes through Denver. Miami's going to play them again. What's Denver really going to do? Because we didn't give a shit about if we're 15-1 or if we're 14-2. We still have home field advantage. So, yeah, I think that takes precedence in a lot of situations in games.
Yeah, a lot of people, they don't know what really goes into it. I say it all the time. You don't know how someone in the NFL, and I know y'all attest to this, that game plan changes every single week. Like one week you might throw the ball 40 times, and one week you might run it 40 times. And it just changes based on the specific offense or defense that you're seeing. And a lot of people who gamble on sports, especially football, they really don't realize that, this team, they just put 52 on them easily, and now they're struggling to score 20. Well, there might be a reason for that.
Right. Absolutely.
So, again, this segment sponsored by Girls.Gamble.live. So, interesting Monday night game. Glenn, you and I were speaking about it. It looks like Washington, their season got a little derailed here with the injuries. They play a game last week. Their 3 top receivers are out, and then they lose their starting quarterback midway through the game, and Dallas just paced them. And then, it's funny, right? Like Kansas City, they start the season 0-2. And then everyone, this is the end of Kansas City, this, that, and the other. And all of a sudden, Kansas City goes and they roll off 4 out of 5 wins. And the one game they lost, they get beat by Jacksonville basically in the last minute of the game. Kansas City, a big favorite in this game. What do you think is going to happen on Monday night?
Well, the addition of the 2 receivers, they got their 2 top receivers back, Washington, right?
Correct.
And I think Mariota is good enough, and I know the head coach is good enough to have a game plan to get the ball out of his hands, put it in their hands. They're really good with yards after catch. So I think Washington can move the ball. I think when you lose 2 games, sometimes playing on the road, it's kind of a privilege. It's a good thing. You kind of bond a little more, and it's kind of like us against the world, and we don't really want to face our fans. We're humiliated. We don't really want to face them yet. Like, let's go over here, regroup, and I mean, what a great place to play. It hypes you up. It's the loudest stadium in the league. So Monday night, I think Washington's going to be able to run the ball, because and a lot of play action with these 2 receivers with high percentage passes where they can move the ball down the field. I think they can get 12 play drives on them and put up some points. And then I think on the other side, Kansas City's super hot. I mean, they're super. You're not going to slow them down. You're not going to. I mean, you're going to slow them down by keeping the ball out of Mahomes' hands. That's the only way. But other than that, they're going to put up 28, 35 on you. I would probably take what's the point spread, like 12?
So point spread is 12.5, and Kansas City just laid that number against Las Vegas. So it's very rare in the NFL where you're a double-digit favorite and you cover both times. But it seems like to me, 47.5, you kind of figure in a high-scoring football game at Arrowhead on Monday night.
Yeah, and like all the numbers would point to that line being like 14, and it's not, and it's kind of telling me that Washington can get a backdoor cover at the least. I think they are going to put up points. I could see them putting up 17, with the new receivers and so I would look at a backdoor cover. I would probably take the points.
Okay.
Totals I'm not really. To me, it's like a coin toss, because you just don't know what game plan they're going to do. They could be in a risky high blitz and man-to-man coverage type thing that they want to show the next team. I think Kansas City plays Buffalo. Their defense might want to show a lot of man. They might want to show a lot of something else that they're not going to do against Buffalo. So the totals are they're tough on me. I don't really would play those. I would probably look at the over.
But yeah, I mean, leaning towards the underdog there. And look, to your point about game plans, Kansas City plays on Monday night. Now, look, we're not taking anything away from Washington. This team played in the NFC title game last year. This is a good football team when healthy. But Washington, Buffalo. Who do you think right now has Kansas City's attention, right?
Yeah.
So they're playing Monday night. They got a short week. And they got to play, or go over to Buffalo. So to your point about game plans, they might play a vanilla game plan and might just say, hey, let's just win this game, get out of town. And it might be prime for Washington to cover the 12.5.
Yeah, and good teams, they say that saying, like, just don't wreck the Ferrari. Like when you've established yourself as a top tier team like Kansas City obviously is, the coach has a lot of confidence in a simpler game plan and execution. Like, hey, they know how to win and they know how to not lose, which means, hey, Let's not lead the game in penalties. Let's not drop passes. Let's not, all these unwanted holding calls, turnovers. Let's just eliminate that. We'll beat this team. Whereas when a lot of times you got to go in like, hey, we've got to score, we've got to rush the ball, we've got to do this, we've got to do this, we've got to do this. A lot of times when you have a really good team, you can just say, hey, let's just not do this. Let's play conservative. We've got a bigger game next week. So, I think Kansas City knows how to do that. So I think they're going to win the game, no doubt. But I just think 12 is a little bit too much, and that backdoor probably something that would happen.
Yeah, especially on a primetime Monday night game. It's hard to cover double digits 2 weeks in a row. I got to ask you one more question. I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here because this is something I'm interested in right now. We all know Terrell Davis was a great running back, right? Mm-hmm. But to me, Terrell Davis, he didn't play long enough. When he played, he was probably one of the top 3 or 4 running backs in the league. But it seems like he didn't play long enough, and he got into the Hall of Fame. Now, I know you played with him. I'm not, he's your teammate, he's your boy. But do you think Terrell Davis, legitimately, truth serum in the arm, was he a Hall of Fame running back?
In my book, yeah. I think, what Terrell, and I agree with longevity weighs a lot, in considering stuff like this, like Hall of Fame. But my criteria with Hall of Fame is every week when you play another team, the scout team will wear a different colored thing on their head or a jersey, a red jersey with the number. Like if we're playing San Diego, you're going to have 55 Junior Seau. You're going to know where he's at all times on the field. And I think Terrell, they 100% focused on him you had to stop Terrell. You cannot beat us if you don't stop Terrell. And that 2,000-yard year easily could have been 2,500.
Really?
Easily could have been 2,500. He missed like 8 quarters. We would pull him at halftime. We'd pull third quarter. We'd pull him easily 2,500. There was a lot of good backs after him because Alex Gibbs' running system, Mike Shanahan's running system was so good, but they weren't Terrell. I mean, Terrell, it was the perfect system for his perfect running style, Barry Sanders couldn't have went in that system and run that one cut downhill type running. So it was just one of those things where he was at the top of the food chain for the short period of time, but he was at the very, very top. That running game was unstoppable. I'm telling you.
And then you put it with John Elway, and then it's just, hey, back-to-back Super Bowl champions. Now, I know you have a business venture going. It's not coming up soon. It'll be more in February, and we're going to have Glenn Cudras back on before the Super Bowl. But I'm just going to drop a hint here. We don't have to talk about it. If you want an Airbnb in Cabo right on the beach, this might be the boy to go see. He'll have it ready in February, so we'll talk about that.
That's right.
The next time.
Yeah, we will.
Yep.
We will. I'll be there. I'll be there during the interview on that. So
I love it. Yo, Glenn
have a better view for you.
Thank you so much. This was sponsored by GirlsThatGamble.live. It's been a pleasure getting to know you, Glenn. Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you had a great time.
My pleasure. You too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, bud. Have a good one.
You too.
Go Broncos.